Hiya, and welcome back to Distant Travels. The the game that I don't know. I still don't know how to pin this game. The game that teaches us about intergalactic travel. Now, there is a thing that's happening right now, and that being the fuck. The route thing. Did I not save at all? No, I didn't. Yo, I gotta load this. So who should we spend more time with? Is it possible? Hang on. Damn it. I'm not here. So I cannot do a poll. So I guess just sort of say who you want for the route. Because otherwise I'm going with the obvious choice. Yo, why is this static screen using so much CPU power? Why? Fuck it. We're gonna start with Mike Steele. You decide to go see if the commander would like to spend some time with you. Last you remember, you saw him head outside. As you're about to exit the building, Charles makes his way over to you. He holds the door for you and exits the building behind you. On your way out to our sky-gazing commander, I was about to go chat with him for a bit, if you would let me make you company. He looks at you as if asking your permission. That sounds good. He notices you looking around as you exit the building. Let's start looking by the lake. If I know Mike well enough, he's probably sitting somewhere by the water looking at the sky. Charles seems close to the commander. Now would be a good time to ask about it. How did you end up knowing Commander? He contemplates things for a bit as you walk. Have you heard about the War of Aggression? The War of Aggression? The commander mentioned war, but he didn't seem eager to talk about it. Charles sighs. I apologize, Alex. I forget that this is a different world sometimes. The War of Aggression was what one could compare to a world war. A few years back, Arctos was entering a new age of space travel. Of course, we wanted to explore the universe now that we had the option. His voice carries a hint of sorrow, not too unlike the first time he told you about the Endless White. We ended up finding out that we are most definitely not alone in the universe. And in the end, our government caused what is now called the War of Aggression. The aggression coming from Arctos. You found other life, and then attacked it? You can hear the disbelief in your own voice. Not us per se, what used to be a kind of world government for Arctos did. You look up and notice the commander sitting at a bench near the lake. The shame and blame still belongs to us, all the same. Our world was the one wanting to take what did not belong to us. During that war, I ended up in Mike's squad. To be honest, I hated him at first. None of his orders seemed to make sense, and I was all too aggressive. Eventually, I understood what kept us alive, and what kept us winning. You'll have to ask Mike about the details, as I'm not sure that's my story to tell. As he says that, you notice him pat his shirt pocket as if he's making sure there's something there. There's actually a lot I don't know. You arrive at your destination as you finish your train of thought. Cute. Aww. But that probably won't change anything. Our mission is different, right? We're saving, not attacking. And without asking, I'm sure there's a million things I don't know that would explain things. You see the commander raise an eyebrow. He must have just caught the end of the conversation. Sharp. It's a conversation for another day. Aside from that, you might find the history quite interesting. The past should not be forgotten, lest we repeat our mistakes. A price paid in sadness should not be paid twice. And so, we remember our mistakes and bring them with us into the future. Poetry at this hour, Mike? Mike puts his hand up and scratches the back of his head. The night sky brings out solemn feelings. He nods at you. Did you enjoy the day, Alex? You can tell that the commander is a little tipsy. To be honest, you are as well. I've had a lot of fun. Designed to create a memory, right? He smiles. You're always one step ahead. Did you tell him why we want to create a memory here, Charles? I didn't tell him all of it. I figured I'd leave that to you. I'll leave you two alone in a minute. Here, Mike. He reaches for his breast pocket and pulls out a flat bottle, paired with 2 small cups. He then hands it all to the commander. Fire wine? It's the last bottle, and I can't think of a proper time to give it to you. I don't expect you to drink it, but I figured you'd appreciate the symbolism. He takes the bottle. You're usually not this nostalgic. Thank you, my friend. I'll leave you two to it. The two of you stay silent for a minute as the tiger makes his way back up towards the inn. The commander makes space for you on the bench next to him. Want to keep me company for a little bit? To be honest, that's why I came down here. He raises an eyebrow. I'm a little surprised you choose to spend your time with a nostalgic old bear who keeps looking at the sky on a night like this. He smiles again. But it's a pleasant surprise. I appreciate your company. He inspects the bottle Charles gave him. Charles is usually not this sentimental. After our first mission together, he gave me a bottle just like this. It's a little strong compared to what I drink, the rare times I do. In the time I have known him, he's been pretty sentimental. Serious, but sentimental. Maybe he's just getting old? You can't help but let out a short laugh. How old is he anyway? It's a little hard for me to tell, to be honest. It's the commander's turn to laugh. I hadn't thought of that. I might be off by a little bit, but I think he's in his mid-30s. When I met him, he was almost fresh out of his studies. You can't help but wonder how old the commander is. It'd be a lie to say you weren't interested in him. To what degree remains to be seen. But still, he breaks your train of thought with a question of his own. Today was about creating a memory, Alex. I'm sorry for not telling you about this earlier, but we had this idea to make it real. Something that won't have a chance to feel fabricated. To make something worth storing, as a proper goodbye to this world, for most of us. I've had a good time. There's nothing plastic about it. We've also managed to hit the commander in the stomach during laser tag. Do you really want to remember that? Thinking about it. It's not a bad memory. I had fun, and it led to getting to learn something new about him. Even mistakes build relationships. Thinking about it, you've been pretty sentimental recently as well. Perhaps it's because you're a little tipsy, or maybe it's because you feel comfortable in the company you're in. But you can't help but feel like tonight is a night to not really care about holding back. Maybe it's time to just speak my mind, even if my thoughts seem awkward. I've been feeling pretty sentimental recently as well. I think revisiting today sometime in the future would be interesting. To see the differences. Knowing that you'll be going away for a while evokes that feeling, doesn't it? Speaking of memories and remembering, Charles mentioned something about a quote regarding the perception of time. He seemed to think that I'd like it. He looks you in the eye. You did? It's how I view bad times, and strive to move forward. Time is but a string that grows longer as it exists. Think of what has happened as a mark on that string. As it grows, that which has happened will be behind that piece of the string which is present. As the string grows longer, that mark becomes a smaller part of the string. It's about perspective. The bad times pass and fade, remember the good ones instead. He finishes and stays silent for a moment. It's how I like to think about perspective. As long as you know there's a broader picture, the struggles of the moment seem smaller. He sighs. Hopelessly romantic, but that's part of me. Thinking about it, I'm also a hopeless romantic. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have been able to keep hope up at times. He's sharing a part of himself here. I like it. As long as you know there's another perspective, you can bear most things. You can't help but feel like you can share something about yourself as well. After all, he opened the door. Besides, I'm a hopeless romantic myself. That makes two of us. He brings out the 2 cups and the bottle Charles brought. He places the cups on the small table next to the bench. Would you like to taste some Arctos fire wine? Your mind flashes back for a second to your conversation with Charles during lunch. The best cure to a broken heart is a stiff drink and good conversation. Here it is by the looks of things, with your new motto. You might as well roll with it. Sure. Awkward response, but the commander doesn't seem to mind and fills the 2 cups with a clear liquid. I rarely drink, but tonight is special. I just like the idea of drinking away your sorrows. Hold up, was he sad? He was sad. But I like the idea of celebrating something new. He hands you one of the cups and raises his own for a toast. To hopeless romantics and making a good memory. You touch your cup to his and then bring the cup to your mouth. It tastes smooth, not like any alcohol you're used to. I can't help but wonder if this is going to have an effect on you at all. I've really had my perspective change these last few days. I don't really want to have that part of the string get smaller, so to say. There's 2 sides to every coin, for better or for worse. I like to believe that we pick what we remember fondly, despite not being aware of it or not. And if there's more good memories than bad ones, then screw perspective. Perspective is what changes it, eh? With new perspective, the problems I've had recently all seem so distant and small. There's a lot of truth in that view. He puts his arm around you as you sit on the bench. He's definitely getting drunk. And so are you. The fire wine is having an immediate effect. You can almost imagine yourself thinking back on this in the morning. Hopefully not hungover. Thinking about how you let go of some of your inhibitions. You can't help but lean into him as he has his arm around you. You can't help but lean into him as he has his arm around you. Sorry, my dog's being weird. I'm oddly excited to go to space. Kind of leaving the world behind and to a new adventure. Even if I know I'll be back home eventually. Excited for a new start or to leave things behind? Probably both, to be honest. 2 sides to every coin, was it? Speaking of memories and new starts, I'd like to remember this. This is nice. It is. If I could filter out my bad memories like that, I'd replace them all with this. I feel like you should stop yourself from asking, but you ask anyway. Damn alcohol. Do you have a lot of memories like that? It's a stupid question. I already know the answer. His eyes betray it far too often. Fuck, why did I ask that? He's not asking you uncomfortable questions even if drunk, and here you are just going for the low blows. You begin to formulate an apology in your head, but before you can get it out, he speaks. Too many. The quote holds true. There's 2 sides to every coin. When people call you a hero, it just means you're the villain of someone else's story. The continuation of that line, there's 2 sides to every coin, is this. A victory won in a war is just an atrocity paid for in the blood of the side that lost. I have a lot of bad memories. I just hope that eventually they'll be part of a long string of good ones. You hear him say something under his breath. It almost sounds like he's swearing. Then he sighs. When I look at you, I forget about that for a moment. You're optimistic, and even if you don't feel it yourself, you'll end up being someone's hero. And you're no villain. I don't know what to say. Silence falls for a moment, but I'm also a hopeless romantic after all. Isn't that similar to why you struggle? What do you mean? No matter who you are or what you've done, if you feel bad about it or if you struggle, it is because you're looking for something greater. Something better or something kinder. You feel sad or stuck because you want something better, and it's also why there's no reason to give up when things get rough. You're not even sure yourself where this bout of poetry is coming from, but I can't say I dislike it. Thanks for the comforting words. He hugs you with the arm that's already around you. Even though you probably knew, you never thought the commander was this sad on the inside. Maybe that's why he always looks at the sky. The freedom and to forget. It's better than drinking. Not that you can say anything about that tonight. Another question pops up in your head, and your inhibitions are so far gone you don't even try to stop it. With all that pain, Mike, what made you stick with the military? The layer of sadness. Are you that sad? Not mine, the world's. There's a lot of pain in the world. Once you notice it, you can't really stop it. Everyone has their sadness, and their pains that they carry with them. It makes me feel like I want to give everyone a hug, all at once. And just keep them safe. For everyone to feel good and safe, and not have to worry all the time. So I'm sticking with the next best thing, when it comes to keeping people safe. I can't help but feel like a teacher could do the same. Maybe I'm a hypocrite. If I'm to be completely honest with myself, I don't want people to get close. If you had any doubts that the bear was anything but drunk, they're gone. This is far too honest and open. I've said too much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get drunk and bring down the mood. That's alright, I'd like to listen if you'll share. He sighs, but at the same time pulls you closer. He's warm and pleasant compared to the cold night air around you. I've asked too much. Sorry. Don't be. Sometimes I think I don't reflect enough. And drunk or not, I got to hug you. He smiles a wide smile. You feel regret as soon as the words leave your mouth, but you can't help it. You also make a mental note to never drink fire wine again. Why do you not want people to get close to you? Silence falls for a minute, and then he speaks. I guess I just don't want them to break the illusion of who I am. I'm supposed to be a strong leader, flawless in fighting for safety. I'm not really supposed to be sad and show weakness. Or get so drunk I spill my secrets sitting on a bench next to someone I care about on a winter night. It makes you more human. He raises an eyebrow. I guess it's a bad choice of words. Being human doesn't sound wrong. You keep yourself from asking more and give him a proper hug. He hugs you back. It's getting late. Wanna go inside? Gentleman first. He stands up and bows. You stand up and start walking. You have to stop once or twice. You're too drunk. Damn fire wine. The commander notices and stops. He puts his arm around you and keeps you steady. At first, neither of you say anything as you start making your way back to the inn. This evening was not what you had expected, but it was definitely not bad. What's it like? Thinking about leaving your home behind, despite knowing you'll be able to return. There's always that feeling of insecurity, isn't there? I don't really have too much holding me here. I have my colleagues, but to be honest, I haven't known them for all that long. They're my best friends and I love them, but that's it. Never mind. Having said it out loud, I do love them and I will miss them, but for some reason I'm more excited about this all. Saving a world, going to space, learning about Arctos, everything. It's quite the adventure when you put it like that. Both of you fall silent for a minute. It's like a new start. At one point, life really hit me in the balls. He chuckles at the likeness, his mind probably went back to what happened earlier today. You can't help but smile. But in perspective, it never was that bad, even if it seemed like the end of the world at the time. In my proverbial string of time, I think I'll like the mark I'm making now. I'll help you make it a good one. The rest of the night is fun, and you get to know everyone a little better. Familiarity breeds comfort, and knowing everyone a little better makes you relax a little more. They're not very different from anyone else you know. Turns out, when you get to know most people, everyone's fairly similar at the core, despite the experiences that shape us. After a while, it is time to call it a night and you retire to your room. It takes a little bit for you to fall asleep. It's like the excitement of the day has to catch up to you first, before your brain can rest properly. You seem tired. He pulls you closer. Long day? He pauses for a second as if for you to respond. After a little bit, he continues as if you have had a long day as well. I hope your day was good. It was. I've met a lot of good people and got to know them better today. Not that he can hear you say, or rather think that. I'm glad. Somehow I can tell that you needed that. He heard you? That's new. Not like the other dreams you've had. You want to ask how his day was, but once again it feels like your thought echoes out into nothingness. But somehow you can tell how exhausted he is. You can't help but wonder if this is what he's mentioned before, how he feels what you feel somehow. You hug him tightly. Supporting the people you care for is best done as a two-way street after all. And one thing is for sure, no matter who he is, it seems he cares. He sighs deeply. It feels like we're both going on an adventure. Although perhaps of different kinds. He's right. I like these breaks I get with you. They help me recharge. Despite how comfortable this is, there's still a question gnawing at the back of your mind. Who are you? As he responds, you can't hear anything. You feel colder and lonely. It is a strange feeling compared to the closeness you just felt. Chapter 3. Echoes from the Void. That ain't creepy at all. You wake up in a silent room. There's sunlight leaking in through the curtains, and there's a smell of tea in the air. Despite how pleasant it is, you still feel a little off, exhausted in a way. Perhaps it is due to the way that dream ended. Somehow, it feels like the past few weeks of my life has been all introspect. Kind of like waiting for the storm to hit, huh? For the movie to start, or for the chance to finally come to you. It's a weird feeling. It's like my mind is shut down and is telling me that I'm waiting for something. Although at the same time, it feels so stressful, like I have to be ready by a certain time or date. Pretty stupid when you think about it. Life is now, or something like that. How am I Life is now, or something like that. Maybe it's time to start trying that out. Why not roll with it? Maybe that's why I always have this inner monologue. Because I'm preparing so much, just watching the world waiting for my life to actually start. Well, I guess the starting point is here. You slowly wake up properly, brush your teeth, and get dressed for the day. As you make your way downstairs to grab some breakfast, you spot Nick in the hallway. He looks a little tense. Morning, Nick. Good morning. Did you sleep alright? Had a weird dream, but other than that, it was nice. Are you heading downstairs? In a second. He looks uncomfortable again, just like he did most of yesterday. Alex, I don't think I'm going to go with you. To Arctos, I mean. So this is why he was so quiet yesterday. I guess I kind of saw it coming. But why? You know how yesterday was supposed to create a memory? Right? It kind of made me realize something. The only reason I wanted to go was to get closer to you. That's kind of fucked up, to be honest. Thinking about it, they don't really need me, do they? I don't think that's true. They wanted you, right? They asked you directly. They did, but really, only one of us is needed. His voice breaks for a second. This isn't like him. You alright? Yeah. Remember when you told me you feel like you don't fit in the mold? It was that one time at Nick's house, right after you had broken up with your ex. Well, neither do I. I just fake it and pretend to fit in. And in this case, I might have met my match. The Firefly crew? They're kind and I like them, but I don't fit in. I think I finally get what you meant. I know it's not the same context, and nobody dislikes me for who I am, but I can relate a little to not fitting in. I don't want to go if it doesn't feel fully right. And just wanting to go to get close to you isn't right. Not even close. Let's talk more about it later, if that's alright with you. I had no idea Nick felt like that. Alright, Nick. Whenever it feels right for you. The two of you proceed downstairs and grab some breakfast. The rest of the Firefly crew is already there. Nick brings up the fact that he's not coming with you, although it looks like Charles already knew. There's not a lot of talking and the excitement seems to have slowed down a little, now that everything for the journey seems set. You find yourself in a conversation with John and Max. John seems fairly awake this early, for someone who sneaks away for naps whenever he can. So, John lowers his voice. Mr. Good-Looking. He clears his throat. Alex, what did you think of the entire experience yesterday? He winks at you as he says that. It was a lot of fun. Whoever came up with the idea must have been a genius. It's your turn to wink. It's cheesy, but the badger smiles at that. You seem more relaxed now. Thinking about it, he's right. It's been quite the journey, even though it's just been a few days. You adapt fast. It's a good trait. There's a saying similar to that my parents always used. Kids are spongy. They fall down and spring right back up. I don't think that's a me thing. People on Earth always take some pride in that we adapt fast to new environments. Nifty. Speaking of adapting fast, Max, just how many slang words did you pick up? Gotta get 'em all. You let out a groan as John raises an eyebrow, seemingly trying to figure out the meaning behind Max's slang. Made your way to the 2000s? I want to be the very best. The best there ever was. Hold on. This is going to get copyright claimed. I swear to God, it's going to get copyright claimed. I don't know, I haven't had one yet, somehow. Like, I have not had a copyright claim, somehow. But, it's time to, like, risk it. And I think you know exactly where this is going. Oh, shit. I gotta, like, bring this here. We gotta listen to it. I at least have to listen to the beginning. Ah!
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
I had to. I had to. Let me, like, close that window and go back to the game view. That just murdered my computer. This time you can't help but let out a small chuckle. More pop culture it is. The Firefly is going to be lively as ever with you there. John lowers his voice a little. Max isn't the only one who's looking forward to it. It'll be a new atmosphere, a better mission than looking for help and new colleagues. Looks like you're not the only one with a lot of introspective thoughts. Perhaps John is also waiting for things to start. Max seems a little more in the moment, though. Perhaps that'd be nice. Just get past the thinking and being a little more now. But that's not you now, is it? But let's try for a little bit. I'm incredibly nervous, but it'll be fun. Why? I mean, you're only going into outer space with a bunch of people who aren't even human. On an adventure to save a dying world. No biggie. Basically a normal Tuesday, right? Such is the life of our superhero. John drags the word out as he says it, with a hint of teasing in his voice. You guys are old. Max looks at you. Is this what they call boomer humor? Okay, Zoomer. Max groans. I'll make sure to bring some movies and books for you, Max. There should be a ton of stuff. Speaking of movies and electronics, I'm fairly confident we'll be able to play any media you bring on our devices, especially if you help us with the networking setup. It'd be good to prepare, since that's what I'll be helping with, right? The Badger smiles softly. Precisely. With that said, are you going to bring a computer or phone, Alex? Now would be a good time to ask about your phone. I'll bring a laptop at least. Not sure about my phone. It's fairly pointless without a connection to the internet. Everything's done online. John raises an eyebrow. You should be able to have an internet connection. It might not always be active, but it should be possible if you show me how your equipment works. That's surprising. We'll have an active connection to Earth. Won't there be massive delays? Unless... Quantum entanglement. He smiles. As far as I understand, your internet is just a series of bits. Zeros and ones. Setting up an interface that translates, that shouldn't be too difficult. I'll set something up before we leave, if it'll make the trip better for you. That's very considerate. Thanks. That'll make a massive difference. Hopefully you'll even be able to stay in contact with Julia, and maybe even the others. You Might even be able to pick our movies from an online library then. An online library? There's those for Earth movies? What about books? I figure if it exists on Arctos, some version of it probably exists on Earth. Creatively, Arctos is probably the world that's lacking. So what you're saying is that there will be almost an infinite amount of movies and series for me to watch? I should be able to set something like that up. That's Pog. Sean will love that. Sean? Right, John did mention a few of the other crew members before. The ones that are still in the Firefly waiting. There's Sean and Sheila, right? And Tom? There are a few others as well, if I recall correctly. Sean and Sheila always come and go as a pair. They're basically inseparable at this point. Then there's Gerald, grumpy old bore and resident strategist. You'll recognize him right away. Don't take him too seriously. He's a softie, but it takes him a while to get there when meeting new people. I'll keep that in mind, although it's hard to imagine anyone from the Firefly is grumpy after meeting you all. John smiles, and then lets out a small chuckle. Perhaps we just brought our best to win you over. There's also a few others. Tom, resident shipkeeper. Basically, he's the janitor. He keeps things running smoothly, replaces broken lights and such. It'll probably be more lively than I thought with the amount of people. It's a large ship. Personally, I think it's a good amount. You won't get lonely, unless you want to be. In which case, you can just sneak away somewhere. There's also Rex, Alf, and Bruce. I doubt you run into Alf much. He's another weapons expert, a mercenary. He mostly keeps to himself unless he needs someone to help him with something. And when he's not working, he's meditating or working out. Unless he's with Mike. It's hard to get to know him, but he's not a bad guy. Max just keeps adding input, but it's nice to get the extra perspective. John seems to be thinking for a second. Can you make Animal Crossing noises? What? Thinking about it, you two might get along actually. You have the same feeling of calm. John sighs. And then there's Rex. I think you'll get along well. He has the same thing you seem to do sometimes. Where you're inside your head more than in the real world for a bit. How do you even respond to that? You're not wrong. You'll like him. He's a nice guy. Very, very philosophical. Very, very philosophical. The conversation continues with more comparisons between your different cultures. Eventually, it fizzles down and you finish your breakfast in good company. The trip back to Broadtown and to your hotel feels surreal. It's like you've made a lot of new friends in a very short time. The people around you feel less like colleagues and more like friends you want to help. It's refreshing. Returning home has an odd effect on you. It's like you return to the inside of your head again, and just wait for things to start. Things happen outside and your body moves, but your mind is somewhere else, in the future. A journey to a distant world, with new people, a new start, and some time to reflect on everything behind you. And when you get back, you'll have a chance for another new start. Kind of like waiting for the storm to hit, was it? And then seeing what lies beyond? The day goes by fast, and before you know it, you and Nick are on your way back to the airport. It's less ceremonious this time. Eventually, you take your seat on the plane. It's been a wild ride. Despite not going anywhere far away, it feels like your world has changed. It was that easy, huh? Didn't even need to actually go to another world to feel it. Perhaps it was mostly the people around you that changed. A change in environment, if you will. I wonder what it'll be like once I actually get there. Perhaps like this, but with less regrets. There's too many layers to this. Stop overthinking, was it? You rest your eyes once more, and before you know it, we hope you have had a pleasant flight with us on Fast Air Airways, and we hope you have a pleasant stay. Together with Nick, you make your way out of the plane and towards the arrival hall. So, I guess things just return to normal now, for a while. Although it'll be weird to not be able to talk much about it. It's just Julia and everyone. They'll get it, if we say we can't talk about it. But, yeah, it'll be weird. Are you sure you don't regret anything? Nah. I'd say you're probably the one who should be thinking about those things. You're right. You spot Julia across the arrival hall, waving to get your attention. Seems like she's here to pick you up. I expected nothing less with the two of us here and all. With that, Nick walks off towards Julia like nothing's happened in the last week, which, to be fair, is true from Julia's perspective. Time to get back to the old grind for a bit. Julia greets you with your regular enthusiasm. She seems more excited than anyone at you going away. If I didn't know better, I'd swear she was looking to get rid of me. But no, that's not who Julia is. After greeting her and assuring her you're alright, more than once, you make your way out of the airport alongside Julia towards her car. As you exit the airport, rain is slowly falling down. This reminds me of looking up towards the moon at night. It's a lofty thought, romantic at that. At some point, there's definitely someone else, somewhere else, looking up at their moon. Some other night, at some other place, thinking the same thing. It has the same feel, looking up towards the rain like this. Somewhere, someone else is looking up towards their rain. Probably thinking something similar. Humans are weird like that, always looking for connections and signs. But it is kind of comforting. I can't help but get nostalgic on gray days like these. It's like if the world is saying that this chapter is over and a new one is starting. Kind of romantic, isn't it? At the same time as the thought crosses your mind, you finally realize that breath that you never realized you were holding. It's like as if time starts to speed up ever so slowly, the tension easing up. I can't help but wonder if the commander feels the same way on days like these. Probably. He's a nostalgic bear, that's for sure. And he would want to teach me all about why it's gray when the sun is obscured by the clouds. Less light making it blue, right? Does it rain like here on Arctos? With how similar both worlds seem, it's not that far-fetched. If there is someone else looking up at the same rain, somewhere else, will that person know that I'm thinking about them? Maybe even someone on Arctos? Maybe thinking about someone else is what entanglement is, or how it shows. If two people can be entangled, that is. Being entangled with him, that wouldn't be bad. Not bad at all. At the same time in Broadtown. Good night, Charles. Don't stay up working too late. Good night, Mike. I'm just going to finish this up, then I'll be heading to bed as well. Things will be moving fast this week. We'll be on our way home before we know it. I'm looking forward to it. Mike waves Charles a goodbye as he leaves and closes the door behind him. He's right. Things will be moving fast. It's a weird feeling, saying goodbye to a world that isn't home. As the bear steps out the door, he notices the slow rainfall and looks up towards the sky. It's a pleasant goodbye. Earth has been a nice home for the short time I've been here. Not like Arctos, but I wouldn't mind having been born in this world if I had to. Even if it is a gray world compared to home, and it's filled with different people, everyone seems to have a strong will. I wonder if Alex has similar thoughts when he thinks about Arctos. I'd like to show him just how colorful the world can be, if possible. Perhaps it's a selfish thought, but I'd like to hear his thoughts, and what he'd think if he saw it. Oh my god, he was! The Arctonian sky. Oh my god. My heart. A big gay heart. Julia wakes you up from your daydreaming as you reach the car. Long week? Yeah. I'll drive you two right home. Home stretch, so to say. Come on, that was a good pun. So... I know you two can't say much, but... How was it? Was it all that you thought? It was probably better, to be honest. Yeah, it's a pretty unique job offer. Exciting, right? I told you, Team Jules rules would win. I doubt we'll ever get another chance like this. And you're still not going to go, Nick? Nick is quiet for a second. I don't think it's for me. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, but I don't think it's meant for me. It's your fault, Jules. What? The shock in her voice is real, which is rare when it comes to Julia. I have it too good with you as my boss. We'll see about that. This time, however, the harshness in her voice and expression is clearly faked. So, Julia. She lets out a small chuckle before she responds. Yeah? When I get back, do you think I can interview for my job back? And then she laughs for real. She laughs for almost a minute before you finally get your response. You won't even have to interview, you know? Besides, I'm going to call you every week. You're not getting rid of me that easy. That's comforting and unsettling at the same time. It doesn't take long before you arrive at Nick's house and you and Julia see him off. It's a few more minutes in the car and Julia comes to a stop outside your house. Welcome home. You step out of the car and grab your bag. Just as you're about to say goodbye, Julia grabs your attention by clearing her throat. I almost forgot. I have something for you. She looks around in her bag until she finds it. The gift is wrapped and shaped almost like a book. Open it when you're at your new office, alright? Yes, ma'am. This isn't some kind of drug you're making me smuggle, is it? Caught red-handed. It's something to remind you of home if you get homesick. Thanks, Julia. She smiles at that. Will you be coming by the office at some point this week? I was actually planning to keep working as soon as I finish packing my stuff. She looks a little surprised. Ever reliable. You don't need to stress it so much. Take your time, Alex. I can't help it. I always feel like I need to do my best. I don't want to disappoint anyone, you know? It's not like you'll disappoint anyone here. We're all excited for you. Besides, you've already made it, if you think about it. It's not like you're waiting for life to truly start. Just existing for a while is fine. Thanks, Jules. She smiles at you. Good night, Alex. Good night, Julia. Thanks again. You close the door as she drives away. As you step inside, you're greeted by the familiar smell of home. I wasn't even gone for that long. Still, it is noticeable that you've been away from home. Everything seems dusty, even though it is not. The air smells different, even though it smells like home, and the entire place feels empty somehow. You take a quick shower before heading to bed. It's refreshing. Your entire body feels lighter. And as you lay your head down on your pillow, you finally feel like you're back home. I wonder if that's how I'll feel when I come home after being away for so long. You once more find yourself in a conversation with someone in your dreams. Time for the string to die once again! It's more of a conversation this time than just a feeling of a person. Something more real. Sounds like you'll be gone for a long time then. Will you be surrounded by people you can trust? That's a good question. I think so. I haven't known them for too long, but the ones I've met... Good. That will take you far. Further than the stars with some luck. Spread your wings, but don't stray too far. Here's a sigh. You can't see it, but you can feel it. If you ever feel stuck, call for help and I'll come find you. That's a romantic thought. I don't even know who you are. To me, you feel familiar somehow. Almost like a figment of my imagination, not even real. You think so? Depends. Realistically, yes. But thinking about it, I'd be a lot happier if you were real. Do you not have people who care for you? I do, but I don't know how to explain it. Even though I have people who care for me and I care for them, I want something more, something else perhaps. You do have people who care for you, and you care for them. But there's that one thing you're missing. Romance? Maybe. Suddenly the world begins to darken in front of your eyes. Looks like it's time to wake up. I hope I get to see you again, regardless if I'm real or not. The coming week passes quickly, despite the constant rain that seems to last all week. Like if someone turned on a switch and the rain just won't stop. That's a constant, in a way. Nobody can stop the rain from falling. There's an uncomfortable feeling that you can't shake. Things are changing, and even though you want them to, it's still scary. It's new and unknown, but some things just happen. Despite it not being fun, the only thing I can do is make the best of it. Like relaxing inside as it rains, listening to the rain hitting the window as you read a good book. The rain is still there, but it's much more comfortable. Like it's providing comfort instead of just getting me wet. Alex, you're a hopeless romantic. Aside from that, these last few days have been fun. But there's one thing that's been made clear. Trying not to overthink and always keeping an internal monologue is exhausting. It's a way to let things out after all. You finish packing without issue, sorting most of your things into boxes and putting the boxes away. You know it'll almost likely be here when you come back, but still, putting your things away somehow feels right. Being realistic, you are going far away, and there's no way space travel is without risk. What if I don't make it back? If something happens, or if I even for some reason can't make it back? Stuck in space or even on Arctos. It's a scary feeling, but for some reason it's not It's not as worrisome as it is scary. I can't really put my finger on it. I guess it's just how some things are. Before you know it, the wait has passed. You're all packed up and ready to turn a new chapter. You make some breakfast with the last ingredients you've had at home. It's definitely nowhere close to how good the eggs and bacon you made the day when all this started was. That seemingly normal, slow day, which apparently was filled with adventure, that's not even a month ago at this point, despite how far away it feels. As you finish up your breakfast and grab your bag to head to your final day of work, your phone rings. It's Mike. You pick up the phone. Good morning, Alex speaking. Morning, Alex. You doing alright? A little nervous, but other than that, I'm doing just fine. He chuckles at that. I can imagine. We're making you do something that's pretty out of this world. You can't help but laugh a little at his pun, as bad as it is. Alex, I'm calling to say that I'll be coming to pick you up at around lunchtime. I was thinking we'd grab a bite, then head to the Firefly together. You're not in Broadtown, then? Not anymore. I figured it'd be easier to just come pick you up and head directly to the Firefly from where you are. How? We'll just move the shuttle. It's not like how combustion-driven rockets work. I'll talk you through it as we're heading there if you want. I'd say that it sounds surreal, but at this point I'm ready to just accept it as fact. You'll be fine, Alex. I'll see you at lunch then. See you then, Commander. It'll be fine, eh? It does feel that way, despite of how nervous I'm feeling. Now then, to finish the last few things at home. You finish the very last bits of your breakfast and start getting ready to leave. However, before you make it to the door, you take one extra trip to the bathroom and check yourself in the mirror. Feeling anxious as ever. You start making your way towards your now previous workplace. Even today, the rain that's lasted all week doesn't let up. Feels like it's trying to drown the planet at this point. Doesn't take you long to get to the office. Unlike normal, there's no smell of fresh coffee in the air as you enter the building. Seems like Julia isn't here yet. You half expect her to greet you as you walk through the door, but instead there is silence. That's different than usual, but things are changing, so maybe it's something to be expected. You take your seat by your old desk, starting to put your old work laptop and phone away. A few more minutes pass as you work on resetting your old laptop. Eventually, there's a tap on your shoulder. Seems like you just got caught up in your work again. Morning. You seem to be in your own world, like always. Morning, Ed. How's your weekend? The leaves lost. Again. And the planet is trying to drown me. Not that great, then. It was so bad, I'm actually looking forward to those long phone calls with customers who want me to fix their printer, despite it not being my job. That's pretty bad. Let's call it me loving my job. There's a moment of silence. I'm glad you applied for that job, Alex. You'll be going far with your skills, if you only knew just how far. Thanks, Ed. By the way, when are you going back to school? I'm wondering if you'll still be around when I finally get back home. I'm still discussing it with Julia. Most likely I'll be working half-time and studying half-time, so I'll be around regardless. Is Julia recruiting someone new then? I'm not sure. Probably. The door opens and Julia enters the room. Speaking of, good morning. How are you two? Morning, Julia. The leaves lost, but I'm working through it. Morning, Julia. How are you doing? I'm excited, Alex. This will be my first time meeting your new boss. They already let you know then? I got a phone call this morning about it. Finally getting a chance to make sure they're good enough. Good enough? You know, to have someone representing Team Jules rules helping them. Ever the caretaker, eh? That's how teams work if you do it right. Besides, if they'll be taking you, I need to make sure they're the best. Ed will be losing his best coworker for a while after all. The only coworker in the department, actually. Still the best. Julia starts laughing at that. Sometimes I feel like the only thing that can set... Sometimes it feels like anything can set her off, for no reason. No, I can't speak. Can't read. It's another one of those constants in life. However, this one is a bit more specific to you. Weird as it might be, at times. So, are you ready for the cake? You got a cake? Yup. I should have expected it, shouldn't I? It's more fun if you didn't. So aggressive! She's so aggressive. What follows is close to 3 hours of talking with your colleagues. Dave, Sam, and Nick also join you. It seems almost like any regular day, as they can't ask you any specific questions. It's a lot of fun regardless. Eventually, lunchtime approaches, and your now ex-colleagues return to their respective duties, one after another. As the only ones left are you and Julia, you get a phone call. It's Commander Mike Steele. Alex speaking. Hello there, Commander Steele. I'm calling to give you a heads up. I'll be arriving at your office in a few minutes to pick you up. How are you feeling, Alex? Are you ready? Nope, not at all, is what I want to say. But I'll be doing it anyway. He seems to have noticed you being silent for a moment. You'll be alright. Yes, sir. I'll see you soon then. See you soon. As you hang up the call, Julie is looking at you expectantly. They're on their way to come pick me up. Are you nervous or excited? Both. Imagine going on a trip far away and changing your life and career at the same time. It'd be weirder if I wasn't, wouldn't it? Probably. But you're always so composed, it's hard to tell at times. I wonder what kind of people finally managed to crack that shell of yours. As she says that, there's a knock on the door. Julia almost skips forward and opens the door. Welcome. You must be Mr. Steele. As Mike walks in the room, you can't help but react a little to the juxtaposition of your two bosses. Physically, they're as opposite as can be. However, their intentions don't seem to be all that different. G'day. You're Julia, I take it? We've talked on the phone a few times. Nice to finally meet you. Julia shakes his hand. Alright, there's some paperwork that needs filling in if you have a minute before you leave. Julia seems nervous, but then, remembering how high profile everything seemed at first for you, that's no surprise. Yes, ma'am. He glances over towards you and winks. You give him a wave and a smile back as Julia drags him off to discuss who knows what. You get to work in cleaning the final parts of your personal life from your desk and putting everything you had in the office in your bag. It takes you a bit, but eventually, your desk looks ready for anyone to set up their station and get to work. It's a weird feeling. A few minutes later, and the pair returns. Mike has a folder in his hands with Julia's handwriting on it. Seems like she's prepared all the paperwork beforehand. Ready to go? Nervous as can be, and just as excited. As you grab your bag and move towards the exit, you say your goodbyes to Julia and Ed. The rest of your colleagues seem to be off to lunch already. It's less ceremonious than you had expected in your head, but then again, what was there to expect? From their viewpoint, it's like you're going on vacation for a while. Still, as you close the door behind you, you get that feeling like there's butterflies in your stomach. Was this the right choice? Am I living a good life without a real reason? What if everything goes south? What if... You feel a hand on your shoulder, disturbing the train of thought. Are you that nervous about going to lunch with me? Well, you are pretty intimidating, being my new boss and all. Jokes aside, I'm pretty nervous about today. Aside from just being a change in environments, there's a ton of new things. You start walking down the street, almost by habit. Mike doesn't seem to mind and follows alongside you. Your mind works in a fairly straightforward way. If I can overthink it, I will. I can't avoid trying to figure things out. So I end up thinking about what if and how all the time. You're a problem solver. Mostly anxious, honestly. What's the worst what if you can think of? At first, it was, what if I don't make it home? A reasonable thing to be worried about. I'd be worried if you weren't thinking about that. I know it might not seem much. But you have my word, I'll do everything in my power to make sure you get home safe, Alex. Everyone on the Firefly will. We know just how much you're risking to come with us and help us. Thanks. That makes me feel a little less anxious. Now there's just spaceflight, leaving the planet and the worst of all to come, meeting a bunch of new people all at once. That gets a chuckle out of him. It'll be a challenge. The plan is to see if you can shadow one person per day, as to get to know everyone a little better while also learning about life on the Firefly at the same time. Besides, it'll be the first time for most of them seeing a human. They'll be pretty excited to get to know you, and there's no one that they can compare you to, really. You'll be making the first impression of Earth. I'll try not to scare anyone. I'd like to see that. He looks to be thinking for a little bit. Did you pack anything for recreation? Any kind of hobby? Like a few books or things to help you work out, write, or play music? I'm hoping to start a workout schedule properly again. I imagine there will be time for it. Also brought a lot of movies and a few ebooks. You'll be fine then, there's always something to do with the crew, but it's important to be able to get that time for yourself when you need it. What do you do for recreation? Well, I like to work out. I'll go at any time, but it usually ends up being at night. Either because there's a lot to do or because of habit. It's almost like meditation at this point. I also do target practice, shooting. Not shooting. I set up a shooting range in one of the unused recreation rooms and practice with inactive weapons. They essentially just shoot a light and tell me if I hit the target or not. I'd like to try that at some point. Target practice, I mean. It's not quite like the laser tag we did, but the skill set is similar. I'd be happy to show you when there's time. Another moment of silence follows as you walk together. You don't feel as anxious anymore. Well, about being on the Firefly, there's still the entire leaving Earth thing. When you were a kid, did you ever dream about what you wanted to be when you grew up? I wanted to be a firefighter, I think, and then I wanted to be a police officer. I think there was even a phase where I wanted to be a pilot. You know, common jobs that kids look up to. Jobs that help a lot of people. Did you ever think you'd be an astronaut? Not even once. In this day and age, going to the moon is more of a metaphor than a reality. Life is strange like that. The two of you walk past a restaurant you've been to once or twice before. It's a nice place, but usually out of your budget. Mike stops and motions for you to follow him inside. The two of you have lunch together and talk more about the Firefly and its people. You have questions about things like the observation deck and how the food supply works. Before you know it, you're all done and the two of you can call for a car to take you to your house so you can pick up your bags. The goodbye to your house is faster. It only takes a few minutes to do one last sweep and make sure all your electronics are unplugged and everything is put away properly. After which, you grab your bags and head out, preparing to wait. Instead, it turns out there's a car waiting for you. The driver looks just like how you imagine an FBI agent in movies would look. However, as you get in the car and everyone greets you, the mood changes to something more lighthearted. Everyone seems to be in good spirits and happy to see you. You can barely keep up with Max. He almost interrogates you on what kind of media you've brought along. It makes the trip go fast, and before you know it, you're already outside town, heading towards a seemingly empty field. Eventually, as you get closer, John starts telling you about the shuttle, and as he explains how it's cloaked, it slowly appears ahead of you. It's nothing like when you realized Max was a dragon, even though it apparently uses the same kind of cloaking technology. Perhaps because the shuttle is more imaginable, it all feels a little surreal. Everyone's talking and seems very excited as they pack their bags into the shuttle. You end up just going with the flow and doing the same. Before you know it, you're seated and strapped in a seat next to a window with John beside you. The countdown is almost like how you imagined, from 20 to 1. However, takeoff itself is different. It's like there's a fog in your head and your mind is somewhere else. You're sure someone tries to get your attention at some point before they give up, but you're looking out the window. Eventually, everyone falls kind of silent. You snap out of your daydream in the silence, still looking out the window. As you get further up than your usual plane ride, you notice a blue hue covering the ground far below you. Earth is a blue planet after all, huh? It's a sight, isn't it? That little thing has so many people and lives on. Until next time, Earth. Mike clears his throat. There's a tradition from Arctos whenever leaving the planet and going beyond. The captain or commander is supposed to read a quote by any famous Arctonian pioneer. For this, I picked someone from Earth. The thing I remember the most is the view of planet Earth from a great distance. Tiny, very shiny, blue and white, bright, beautiful, serene, and fragile. I believe the one who said this was Michael Collins, one of the humans who made it to your moon. That's very fitting. It really is from up here. An entire world, looking so small from up here. Does Arctos look similar to this? Very much so. It's beautiful, blue, and similarly fragile. At that point, it clicks once more for you. It's a deeper thought now. The reason it's so important to save Arctos is because whatever is happening there might eventually happen to Earth if they can't stop it. If the Firefly could make it here, whatever made it to Arctos might also be able to do the same. It's a scary thought. The endless white. So, what does that mean for you? Looking at it, your job isn't all that complicated. You need to exist and maintain a server setup. John seems to have most of it figured out already. You're almost just there as a backup for that. So the main part seems to be the immunity research. And to see if you can be resistant to the endless white then? Who could imagine it being so important to just exist? The rest of the journey is relaxed as people start talking about the Firefly and the journey. You remain lost in your thoughts and stare off into space, quite literally, until you hear a loud thunk sound. The Firefly to Alex, you alive in there? I'm alright. There's just a lot to take in. And then there's this feeling of a million butterflies in my stomach to try and deal with. Let's get you situated then. There'll be a bit more information to go through. Dibs on showing Alex around. Mike just smiles at that. I'll leave you in Max's capable hands then. Meet me in the navigation deck once you've showed him around, alright? Yes, sir. I volunteer as tribute.
I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute!
My very special kind of bullshit. I volunteer! Yes, sir, I volunteer as tribute. Mike looks confused, but seems to settle that it's another reference he just doesn't know and sighs softly. Right this way, Alex. Max actually grabs your 2 bags alongside his and starts moving out, leaving you no time to ponder. We're gonna leave off here tonight. I cannot think of anything to say, so come out with a stay safe, have a good night, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.